Math Magicians. This is Mrs. Jaffe from Fox Hill School. I'm going to show you a math magic trick that will amaze your family. And the only math you need to know is your 10 fact family. 1 plus 9, 2 plus 8, 3 plus 7, 6 plus 4, 5 plus 5, and of course 10. And the only other cards you need to know are a king, a queen, and a jack. What your objective here is to have the person you do this trick on pull 3 cards from the deck, hold those cards to themselves, and then by the end of the trick you will be able to guess which cards they have. For the purposes of our demonstration, I've already pulled 3 cards so you can see them. It's a 6, a 3, and a 1. So I'm going to shuffle these cards and we'll be off. So when you start this trick, you're going to flip the cards over one at a time. And anytime you come upon 2 cards that add up to 10, you cover them both. There's a 1 and a 9. If you flip over a 10, you're going to cover that as well. There's a 10. There's another 10. If you flip over a king, a queen, and a jack, you cover all 3 of them as well. There's an 8 and a 2. I see a 1 and a 9. Here's my king, queen, jack. And there's a 10. And I see a 4 and a 6, an 8 and a 2, another 6 and 4. Here's a king, queen, jack, a 10 again, 6 and 4. We're just going to keep going. 5 and 5. There's a king, queen, jack, and a 7 and 3, and another 7 and a 3, and an 8 and a 2, and 5 and 5. And now I'm done with my cards. So now what I have to do is pick the piles up, and I'm going to pick them up just the way I covered them. I'm going to find any 2 piles whose top cards add up to 10, like 3 and 7, and pick those up. 2 and 8 add up to 10. 9 and 1 add up to 10. If there were a 10 here, I'd pick that up, and I'm also going to pick up the king, the queen, and the jack. And how do I know what cards the person is holding? Whatever is left on my board, I subtract from the number 10. So 10 minus 9 is 1. 10 minus 4 is 6. 10 minus 7 is 3. And that's how I know what the other person is holding. Now there are exceptions to this trick, so I'm going to show you one exception and how you handle that exception. Here's what the exception might look like. I'm going to put out a picture card, and I'm going to put out a 10, and then another random card. And now I'm going to do the trick all over again. And now what I'm going to do is do it a little bit faster, because that's going to be your objective, to do this as quickly as you can without revealing what the pattern is. So 9 and 1, 8 and 2, another 9 and 1, another 8 and 2. I see king, queen, jack, 3 and 7, 10, king, queen, jack, 1 and 9, 6 and 4, 5 and 5, 8 and 2, king, queen, jack, 6 and 4, another 6 and 4, and I have 1 card left over, so I'm just going to lay that down separately. And again, I'm going to pick those piles up the same way. I don't see any 10s, so I can't pick a 10 up, but I'm going to pick up a 9 and a 1, and an 8 and a 2, and a 3 and a 7, and a 6 and a 4, and a 5 and a 5. And now I'm left with these piles that don't seem to match up with anything, except they do. because since I have a king and a queen left on top, I know that one card must be the jack. And since I have a 3, 10 minus 3 is 7. And since there was no other card left on the board, I know that the last card must be a 10. And that, my friends, will amaze your family.